Good evening, friends. Today I am not here to discuss politics or any other issues, rather a very serious issue which deals with our own fraternity, media. Friends, it's often said that journalists are barred, or rather they go scot-free when they do something wrong. I have a very serious issue to discuss today. In fact, I have a couple of examples, though I will not be naming the persons because it's not done at the moment, but definitely I will raise the issue, which is a very serious issue. Friends, today, before that, let me just give you a little briefing. During the past few days, the Me Too campaign, which started, I think, last year, is very vocal, and it began with Tanushree Datta, then Kangana Ranaut, and today, veteran actor from the Bunyad fame, Alok Nath, has been named. A few days ago, I was being asked by one of my friends on social media why I am silent on Tanushree Datta case. I told him that if I begin a live on Casting Couch, then unfortunately it will go into volumes. Sorry. Because if I start naming the so-called predators in the film industry, Bollywood, Tollywood, then list is endless. And believe me, I can surprise you with many such names which you have no idea. But they are all into Casting Couch. And one of them is one of our very beloved and very senior actor superstar. I won't be naming him. The reason I raised this issue is I told him that if I start with the Casting Couch, then unfortunately our fraternity will also feature, and it happened today. This very senior gentleman in the media, who is of course an institution by his own right, has been named. Everybody knows the name, so I am not taking the name. But this person has been quite infamous for such conducts. And it may be new to those who are outside the fraternity, but inside the fraternity, almost all of us, especially those senior journalists, are aware of these things. I will come to this later on, but friends, to begin with, this gentleman shares a very senior post in the ministry. So, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj was asked for a reaction, which she ducked, and she said that rather she avoided making any statement. Well, coming to the topic. In fact, this gentleman I don't know how to put him actually, because this person, when it comes to profession, is a very good and very apt journalist. In fact, he is an institution. Someone who has not only launched his own newspaper, but even launched Telegraph. When Avik Sarkar asked him. And today Telegraph is a success. Friends, this gentleman has a big infamous reputation, quote unquote, if I may call so. The biggest saying about this gentleman goes, anybody's daughter, anybody's wife, and he is luring. It's a very big allegation. Those who are in the fraternity and are listening here, I'm sure they know and they will agree that this gentleman was one of the key reasons behind breaking up a family life of a very senior journalist. Rest is history, we all know. My question is, why journalists will be spared if others are booked under this offense? Well, many of you must be thinking why I am just kind of washing the dirty linen because it's my fraternity, but I have no hesitation in saying that such people in this fraternity is, what should I say? I mean, if I start counting, the list is endless. Let me give you some example without naming them. One of the so-called predator is a very senior journalist, a Hindi journalist, who ran television shows and is presently holding a very senior post in the governing body. Also enjoys security cover. Those in the fraternity, I'm sure, have guessed. Well, this gentleman was actually, he is one of the very infamous person in this regard. But what I remember is a case that took place last year, or perhaps last year, I can't remember. But this person was accused of sexual exploitation of a trainee, of an intern in his television. So much so that this poor girl tried to commit suicide. And worst of all is, this senior journalist had engaged one of his confidant in the channel, a female journalist, well, I would call her a pimp, to hush up the case. And this female journalist not only tried to hush up, threaten, but also malign the reputation of this intern girl. Well, as I said, list is endless. A very senior journalist from the Northeast, a very good journalist. He was picked up by late S.P. Singh of the Aaj Tak fame. This journalist was, a few years ago, kicked out of his office. He was enjoying a very senior post in a very, very well-reputed television channel. He was kicked out because he was engaging in casting couch. It's really pathetic because a boy from Northeast, having so much fluency in Hindi language, who made it to the top in Delhi media, was kicked out. Well, I have a couple of names because I might forget, but I don't know whether I should be going in details or not. Talking of editors, talking of senior people, another very senior person who runs his own media and it runs in volumes, magazines, television channels, FM radio, what and what not. The famous saying about him is, he is always enjoying women. Well, I have before I forget, I would also like to name another journalist, a very well-known name in Bengali news channel. He was accused of raping a fellow journalist when they both were on a trip abroad. Unfortunately, the case was hushed up by a very senior politician in Bengal. Again, everybody knows this because when I was in Kolkata, this spread like wildfire, and all are aware of the name. But I would like to name a few journalists who have actually lost their jobs after this allegation, such allegation has taken place, and Me Too, hashtag Me Too, has done it all. Gautam Adhikari of DNA, a very senior journalist. Tanmay Bhatt and Guru Simran Khamba of AIB, a very popular digital news channel. K.R. Srinivas of Times of India. And Prashant Jha of Hindustan Times. The reason I took these names are because they are already in the domain and the company has accepted, confirmed that yes, they are out of their jobs. Friends, it's a really shame. It's shame because journalists, they actually jump out of their seats when such incidents, molestation, rapes, gang rapes, stalkings take place, and do big stories. But when it comes to their own, there comes to their reputation, when it comes to criticizing their own fraternity, usually these things are hushed up. I don't know what will happen to this person who is now in the news. But I really pity all those, in fact, very few actually, who are trying to protect this gentleman on social media. As I said, he is an institution in journalism. I will always say this. An institution who actually knows the pulse of news, who actually knows the real news writing, whose editorials are like gospel. But if it comes to character, it's a sorry state of affair. Before summing up, I would like to mention just one thing. That journalists are certainly not above the law. And those who are actually engaging in this kind of behavior, for the very reason they feel that interns, trainee, they will think twice, thrice, quadruple times before opening because of the fear of losing the job. Yes, it's a cutthroat competition. But there are people, there are editors, there are senior journalists, there are senior editors, editor-in-chief, who actually love, respect the fraternity, the sentiment of news. And people like in fact, these people will certainly won't get a place when it comes to decent journalism. I know I am going overboard, but actually this is a little sentimental issue because at the end of the day, it concerns my fraternity. Journalism is about news. It's not about exploiting the newsmen, rather newswomen. So such situation, such stories really hurts. But as I said, we in the fraternity are quite aware of what's happening in the news fraternity these days. I leave you with this today evening. Please feel free to give your reactions, your comments, whether you like it, dislike it, or want to stay neutral. Please tell me, what do you feel about this? Your reactions, your comments means a lot to me. It gives the kick.